understand this is a two-lane environment. One lane is opportunity, one lane is readiness, and those are the two lanes. Do you agree that if this was a 1 square meter, a 1 meter road, yeah? This is, let's say the road was 1 meter, let's say because it's a one way, and you've got like a meter, let's say a 2 meter lane, and this is a 2 meter lane. You only got 4 squares of opportunity. 2 by 2, simple, yeah? 4 squares. But imagine if you could do this. Imagine if you could create more opportunity, access more opportunity. What does it mean? Asking more questions, getting involved in sessions like this, networking, meeting people, having a conversation, researching, Googling, looking at the different social media channels in terms of what's happening around me over here. And imagine you could find more opportunity. And at the same time, you're ready at the same time. You see, you don't create readiness in your system at that point. You create it along the way. You can't prepare for skills when you're ready, when the time comes. You have to be preparing all the time. So the time comes, you can actually strike. That's the important part. Readiness, opportunity. You don't build relationships only because you need a favor. You build relationships way, way early, so when you need the favor, it's an easier conversation. Why? Because I must trust you. What did the governor of the Reserve Bank says? Trust. I'm going to go to you and say, here's the opportunity, I know you can trust, you'll deliver, and you're excited, and I can trust you're going to work together, you're going to carry your weight, I'm going to carry my weight. So it's a trust space. A lot of people create relationships because they need something. You know those people? I want something. Google research, LinkedIn, oh, this person or that person, okay. Go to lunch with them over here, but I got an agenda. People will see through it. You'll see it if it happens to you. Yeah? You create relationships for future. So if we can find a way to access more opportunity, to build more readiness, we're going to find much more opportunity, and then our sweet spot gets bigger. And the one lane, meeting one lane becomes 4 lane, meeting 4 lane, and now all of a sudden you've got 16 squares of opportunity. But then you're going to get bigger, and you're going to network bigger, I'm going to increase my circle. I'm going to have 10 lanes, and another 10 lanes, I've got 100 opportunities. And I'm ready. That's the sweet spot. So, I asked myself this question throughout my life. I opened my first business when I was 21 years old. I was a student. I had different things going on. I studied marketing, economics, finance. I loved the entrepreneurial space. And I started the first business was in the property space. I had other businesses in varsity. You know, if you go into a mall, you got this, people always want to know how many people's going to the mall. We're going to that entrance. You got this, if you go to a mall still, you'll see this little red infrared lights as you walk into a mall. There's a red light that side, red light that side. There's a line you can't see, an infrared light. And when that light breaks, it says one person is coming. 2 people is coming. Have a look again when you see it, right? It's very basic. The more expensive malls got overhead cameras that can tell you who comes in, what age group, what demographic. They got much more sense. Back when I was at UCT, it was a simple thing. There was a mall called Cavendish Square that said, we won't understand how many people come to this mall. And I figured out, it should be, I learned stats in Boston. It works by correlation coefficients. Yeah, correlation coefficients statistically say, if, for example, 5 people walk in at the same time, so they count 1. You walk in and out of the mall, so they have me twice. So what I did was, I got a lot of students who I knew, and I gave them little counters, and I took like 9 to 10 on Tuesday, and Wednesday morning you do this, and Thursday afternoon you do that, and Saturday you do that. And they actually stayed with hands, and they just basically said, okay, there's 6 people walked in, 8 people walked in, and they took their time, they wrote it all down. I took all the information and sunk it in, and I said, well, if the system says 112, because the system actually counts, you'll actually see the system said between this hour and this hour, 112 people came in, and I counted 72, that's a coefficient. So there's actually 72 real people, 112. If you do the math, you say, okay, if I take 72 as a factor 112, I can say there's many people came in. All of a sudden, I had students working over, I was getting paid by Cavendish, I was doing nothing. I was just thinking. We're seeing the movies in Cavendish Square, all part of the guys are moving, the guys are over there, etc. And you're building businesses because you had a thought. I was curious. How do I find a better way to get more academic information? I then went to Coimbra, which is a bakery, and I said, okay, how do I find a way to sell more pies? Because they had this great pie, but the Muslims couldn't eat it because it wasn't halal. So we said, okay, let's create a different division. Let's go call it pie in the sky, because pie in the sky is imaginary. Let's get the imam's son, who's a baker, to actually go work there, because know exactly it's a Muslim individual, and we increased our sales of selling pies. Because you're doing marketing. So you take all your thoughts, all your ideas, your thinking, your curiosity. You're saying, how do I make this into business? And then I started working in this space, and I started coexisting. Because I love the world of the entrepreneurs, running your own business, being your own boss. But I also was very clear in terms of what I could get from a corporate. You work for Standard Bank, M10, ABSA, you look at big portfolios, you make massive connectivity, and you're just in a different space. So I coexisted, yeah? But one question I always ask myself, so I ended up business bank for ABSA, and I tried to understand, why are some business customers successful? I go to a guy, he's massively successful. I never forget in Durban, there's a bottle recycling on the south coast of Mazamtoti. Energy, vibe, he's always thinking different ideas, etc. And he was applying for a loan to expand his business. Bottle recycler on the northern part of KZN, just past Polito, also bottle recycler. He was actually in dire need for funding. He said, I need more funding to actually minimize my losses. I go, this is Durban, South Coast, North Coast. Bottle recycler, what's the issue? I said, can we go meet these two people? After I met both of them, I realized exactly why. One guy's most enthusiastic, thinking different thoughts, new things. Other guy was telling me how bad the economy is, this happening, the political landscape was just complaining all the time, etc. And I started forming a view in terms of why did business succeed, others fail. I started talking to entrepreneurs, my personal capacity, my business capacity, always insightful in terms of saying, let's have a conversation. Why are you successful? How did it start? The idea, the people. Tell me the story. Do you know, if you ask a lot of successful people how they got there, they're going to tell you what they did wrong and what they did right. When they tell you what they did wrong, what went wrong, you don't have to learn the hard way yourself. You can just take their own lessons. Oh, partnership, don't worry about partners. Don't even do business with family. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to tell you to this, all of a sudden you're going to have an issue and a friend, and they just gave me this whole space. And they started forming a mind in terms of what works, what doesn't work. So what I talk to you today is the following. There are 5 attributes I came across. And the way I did this, I actually looked at it, I tested it. Then when I was at ABSA, I had Harvard Business School students. They were doing this massive exchange program. They came in there and said, give us a project. And I said, go and understand the essence of entrepreneurship. I want to put a crystal ball on every banker's desk that says, if somebody walks in, I have to tell the crystal ball, is this guy successful or not? Build me a crystal ball. But build with insights, build with facts. Governor was saying earlier that don't distribute the facts, don't weaponize your information. You're all entitled to your own opinions, but you can't be entitled to your own facts. Facts are facts. Opinion's opinion, right? So I said I got a thesis, a theory, in terms of, I've met an entrepreneur, spoke to him over here. There are common things that I see it's always there. It's like a profiling tool, right? If you want to be an actor, you must have a certain profile. To be a rugby player, there's a certain profile. There's certain profiles we got innate. Right? Sometimes you can be an introvert and be very successful as a concert pianist because you like spending time on your own and just practicing, just ticking the eye all the time. Sometimes you like to be in the buzz, you pull your energy from people, so you become an extrovert and you just basically draw your energy from people and you wire differently, and therefore you succeed in those spaces. There's nobody does this. This system is complicated. This is too expensive. Somebody started the idea that says, let me be curious about what am I trying to solve. The lens we spoke about, somebody walks past a pothole, not another pothole, there's somebody trying to walk away. Other guy says, I wonder how I can fix this pothole. Easier, cheaper, better. What they're doing in New Zealand, what they're doing in India. And they find different ways, because their lens is different, to say, how do I find a way to monetize, to fix this problem? Curiosity. Think of, Yoko, the devices. When you speak to Katlego at the start, he said, SMEs didn't have payment options. The bank made it massively expensive. You must pay for the machine. They charge you 2% or 1.9%. 1.9 is a credit card, 0.9% is a debit card. They're charging you money away from you. The customer pays you, deliver the service, and they just take their 0.9% on 1 billion transactions all over the world. They said, how to make it easier? Curious. For a year, they had to find a way to get a license to do this. Curiosity. We've used Canva. Yeah? Do you know how Canva started? Melanie Perkins is a lecturer. She's lecturing in terms of how to use software to basically make a yearbook. And she says, how can these guys take so long to understand this concept? 1, they must take a whole semester to understand this. And 2, why is this software tool so difficult to manage? I feel we can do it better. Why did she start Canva? 240 million customers today, multi-billion rand business. She was curious. Flutterware, you know Flutterware? Nigerian business. Abu Jay says, how does it take, if you want to transfer money from Nigeria to Ghana, it's more difficult than getting money from the UK into Nigeria. How can it put together thoughts, put a system together, Flutterware. Multi-billion rand business. Why? Curious. I run a business as an engineering company on the road near to the airport. And I got a partner that is highly energetic, much more intelligent I'm ever going to be my entire life. The person has a brick sometimes, different on the spectrum. He'll swear you out kind of thing, he says as well. But he's massively curious and creative with lots of energy. Customer comes to us, mining customer says, we're finding a lot of problems with bolts and nuts. You know, if you put a bolt onto a nut and the vibration happens, the nut and bolt comes loose. And it tells Ivan, this is a problem. We go to R&D space, Ivan moves his desk from upstairs onto the factory floor. The next time, 2 days later, I go there, there's a sleeping place next to the mattress on there, he's sleeping over there, and he'd spend like 23 and a half hours out of 24 hours just basically trying to solve this problem. And what he did? He said, well, must first look at the metal. There's certain metals that have certain properties. Spring steel, for example, it goes back to this from a shape, it's got elasticity, it's got some low carbon, so actually it's quite tensile and strong. And he said, well, if I take a disc and this thing vibrates, it'll turn this way, but I put another disc on top of it, it'll counterclock. Because one's going to spin this way, the same force, one's going to spin that way. And I must use a certain mathematical equation that actually gets the teeth hooked in properly so it doesn't come loose when it vibrates. And all of a sudden we patented the product called the wedge lock washer that mine's going to use now because they actually need to tie things that don't come loose when they vibrate. Curiosity, question. So, curiosity, most important thing. Will you remember curiosity? The second one is risk appetite. Now risk appetite is not, I inherited £1 million from my grandma in the UK and she said, okay, here's some money from me, I'm going to take 100,000 and go invest in the business. No. So Steve Jobs and Wozniak did, he said, okay, let's build Apple. I'm going to sell my VW van. And Wozniak's most prized possession was this sci-fi massive HP calculator. I'll sell my calculator and I'm going to sell my, and that's how they started Apple. Ray Kroc, McDonald's, 60-odd years old, milkshake salesman. I'm going to start this massive business. Colonel Sanders started to sell his chicken recipe to like 20, 30 places. They said, no, it won't ever work. And today KFC's all over the world. 60-odd-year-old guys taking risks at a space where I can rather stay at home, take my pension, my social security check over here. You see, risk appetite is saying, I saw the opportunity, my lens is shaking. 50. Okay, put down. Left. Perfect. Cool. So risk appetite is massively important. Why? What does it do? It helps you understand exactly what is happening, how do you mitigate this risk. Massively important, right? You can't be reckless, you have to understand the risk profile. So there's countless examples you'll find of people that understood there's a risk, but they did it anyway. But they understood the risk and they could mitigate it. So what have we got so far? Curiosity and risk appetite. Third one, energy. You know, you can say a lot of things about Elon Musk. But if you tell me, I'm going to start a company called SpaceX, put Starlink next to it, have a company called Neuralink that can put chips in your brain, then I'm going to have another company, I'm going to actually go buy Twitter and call it X, and I'm going to take that company, I'm going to run another boring company, which is, the boring company is like a construction and other companies got. This guy runs massive companies. How much sleep do you think he gets? How much energy does it put into it? Yeah? You can say what you want to about energy, but this oakie's got different energy. He sleeps on the factory floor sometimes to get it done. If you're going to basically want it, right, what am I willing to put into it? You can't say, I want to run this business, but hey, I'm not going to put much energy into it. I'm not going to put my time into it. I'm going to work 8 to 12 or 1 to 5. It's a passion that consumes you. It says, I'm going to work until the job is done, till I get it right. So if you haven't got the energy, guess what's going to happen? I'm curious. I'll take the risk, but hey, energy I'm swag. I can't put it in. So importantly, energy is number 3. So what have we got so far? Curiosity, risk appetite, energy. Next one, adaptability. How do you adapt when the plan changes? How do you sit with a game plan that says, we're gonna run this game plan, but we're thinking that's what they're going to do defensively. All of a sudden, your competitor changes tack. How do you respond? They actually had a podcast platform. That was their business. It was called Audio. Audio was their platform business that said, okay, we'll do podcasts in there. And then what happened? Apple iTunes launched iTunes podcast. Automatically, your business is dead. Why? Because Apple got millions of customers. You're just starting out. What do? Let's change tack. One of the ideas they had to say, let's create status updates, which became Twitter, which they eventually sold for $40-50 billion to the same Elon Musk with the energy. Yeah? So adaptability says, how do I change my game plan when the circumstances change, when the thinking changes, when my money isn't as much as I thought I had, when I lose my HR person, my finance, my marketing person, how do I adapt to my surrounding? You see, I can try to knock a hole in this wall, and I can persevere. So people always say perseverance. You can also persevere wrongly. right? I'm going to end up with a broken hand because this is like 6 inches of cement and bricks. But if I say, if I can understand the composition, get a drill, get the right size, what hole I'm trying to make, how do I adapt to this environment? How does your business adapt to the situations that you're confronted with? Last one. What have we got so far? Curiosity, risk appetite, energy, adaptability. Last one. Mission. Why? You see, if you're trying to chase money, you're going to make the wrong decisions. If you're chasing my mission, my purpose, if Elon Musk wants to go to the moon, live on Mars, that's his mission. Money is a byproduct of this mission. I need SpaceX to do this, I need this company, I need Neuralink over here, I need robotics, I need coding, I need AI, you've got AIX, which is the Glock arm, you've got different AI tools at the moment. But if you haven't got a mission and purpose, it's going to be short term. You're building something of what value? Is it your mission? Is your life goal and mission? So think about people like Fred Swaniker, Ghanaian guy. If you have a meeting, you've got all this energy, right? He wants to provide 100 million jobs in Africa. He wants to provide coding robotics to make sure he can export African coders to the world. You always think the coders are either coming from the US, from India, from certain places. Why can they come from Africa? You have a company called Sand Technologies. Why sand? Sand is your most basic foundation for silicon chip. That's what you use to make silicon chip is sand. So Sand Technologies. Look at his mission. It's not about making money and coding. His mission is to provide 100 million jobs. There's a lady called, who knows a lady called Lorna Ratto, Kenya, social entrepreneur. She's plagued by all this thing with all this plastic. She's taken so far 13 million tons of plastic waste and converted it into furniture. That wood looking like stuff you see in the parks, it's actually like a plastic thing over here in the jungle gyms. It doesn't get wet, it doesn't rain like in the wood, it doesn't rust, it's plastic over here. But while she's taking all that muck out of the ocean or other places and cleaning up the earth, she's creating recycled material. What is the mission? She wants a green Africa. She wants a poverty-free green Africa. When you're driven by mission and purpose, the dimensions change. So what have we got now? Curiosity, risk appetite, energy, adaptability, sense of mission. What is it called? Cream. Now, why can all milk be cream? You know, you go to the shop, you buy cream, you buy milk. You know the process? The cream rises to the top. Why? It's got different density. Milk is just, I'll just sit here and just be here. Cream says, I'm going to rise on more. Right? Now, all milk can't be cream. Yeah? But if you got cream, you're going to have a much better chance of being a great entrepreneur because you'll be curious. You'll have the risk appetite. You'll have the energy to back it with. You'll have the adaptability, the sense of mission, and the purpose. I'm going to come back to that later. What fuels your dream? That could be cream, fueling your dream. But what fuels your dream? Right? What does it make you get up in the morning? When last were you so excited to get up in the next morning that you couldn't wait for the day to start? This morning. Oh. Henry, this is like, tell Lincoln's the perfect answer. Do you know why it's such a good answer? Because it can be life-changing. Yeah. A single meeting today over lunch, a single interaction with a colleague next to the table, a single insight, a single curious thought, a single lens change can change your life and the life of those to follow. So there's certain moments in your life that you need to say, am I here to take notes or am I here to take action? And maybe it's both. So, passion is going to fuel it. Do you know what passion is? Passion is like fuel, right? Because you need energy. A car can be as sharp as a car is and have the engine combust, everything is there. But you put no energy into that car, it can't move. If it's petrol, if it's a hybrid, if it's an electric vehicle, something must drive this dream of yours. Something must drive the cream that you got. To give you the curiosity, to get you to say 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still awake. Why? Because this is fuel. Sometimes the best example or way to describe a word is by an example, right? So I want to picture, who of you smoke? Who of you hate smoking? Who of you would have an absolute nightmare with your partner, husband, boyfriend, whatever the case is, spouse, and you've got this 1100 bucky that can't climb well. It's a work bucky. You come home, pictures you, and he's got this bucket, and it's raining outside, right? And you hate the fact that it's raining because now the windows are closed and they're smoking next to you, you're breathing all this air, right? And he says to you, I just ran out of smokes, my last cigarette. The only shop is 220 meters uphill in the rain. He's asking you to go fetch food because he can't walk up, or she can walk up because their lungs are popped from the smoke, right? Now imagine you had the space where you actually did it. Okay, that's a different issue. But imagine you had this relationship where I actually had to do it. When he asked me, I asked him, etc., get out of that car. Tell me how to get out of the car. You're going to come back with cigarette stick and smoke out of the car again. It's raining outside, it's cold, it's wet. Must come up this hill to buy him smoke. How do you feel walking up the hill? How do you feel walking up the hill? You what? Out of breath. How do you feel walking up the hill? You enjoying it? Not at all. Okay, now pause, right? Take the same thing around the bakkie. You're now running and you're driving the car. Next to you is not your partner and spouse, it's your 9-year-old kid. They're chronic asthma. You can't breathe. And then you open up your chest, there's a ventilator pump, top of it hill. Chemist, 20 minutes away. Now you're running up a hill now. No, but now you're confusing me because you said it's like difficult. It's the same hill. But it's a different purpose. Yeah. So passion is when you want something so bad that you're prepared to do anything for it, legitimately. So you're running up a hill now because your child's life depends on it, versus going up to a pair of smokes. Now, in the entrepreneurial space, it's the same. If you don't want it bad enough, you're not going to be there for the curiosity. You're not going to be energized. You're not going to work through and push through over here because I don't actually want that much. I'm actually a reluctant entrepreneur. If I get a job off tomorrow, I'm going to take it. This is actually not mine. This is like on the side, I still make money and I pay the bills, whatever. But actually, I'm actually wanting different things. Think of find different things. But don't stay in that space and live your life to a point where you haven't engaged your full potential. You know, sometimes the World Cup is on now, right? So I got this thing in my mind about time all the time. I'll get to the last thing about time. So here's the thing about time. You have 86,400 seconds a day. No matter who you are, you have 86,400 seconds a day. You can be the best soccer player, the best rugby player, the best corporate CEO, you can be the best musician, but still every day when you wake up, somebody's going to put 86,400 seconds in your bank account for the day. And you disperse it. What you do with it impacts who you become. So I'm listening to the World Cup. I've had my time to a point where I block it out. I got this thing called chaotic fusion, where I say, well, if I take my daughter for a walk in the weekend, talk to her and I get some exercise at the same time. I had a meeting with the CEO of NASPAS and I said to her, yeah, instead of sitting at the hotel, at the meeting room at the hotel, why don't we take a walk? We took a walk to Bantu Bay from Shippo. We had a 5.4 kilometer walk and we had a great meeting. But you fuse two spaces together. Why? Because you got precious little time. So this 86,400 seconds, what you do with it, right? So I'm listening. There's a guy that asked me to help him with his business, whatever, and I said to him, look, read this book, it's a good book. And then in a week's time, come back and let's have a conversation about how you start your business and foundational stuff, etc. And I got him 2 weeks later, he didn't message me, I said, I'll just leave it because the ball's in his court. And I was walking in a mall and I popped into him and I said to him, hey, how's that book? I never had a chance to read it, but I'm going to get there. But hey, did you see that Bafana game? And he went and explained to me who played, how they played, the far midfield, the defensive midfield, the attack, the penalty. He told me everything about the game. And I walk up to myself, here's an individual that's sacrificing 2 hours of his life to watch somebody else live their dream. What you do with your time is so important. You can binge on soapies and watch a series that makes no difference in the world to you. And if you're a director and looking for inspiration, then you can probably get up to pass on that one, right? But what you do with your time is critically important. Because here's what's going to happen. When you started life, you're a pattern from your parents. And the parent says, this is what I got for you. Now you can sit and say, well, I looked at my life so far, I'm 20 years old, I can look outside the window and say, my mother did this, my father never did that, my boss didn't give me the promotion, I was born into abject poverty. You can make all those excuses and it's like, yeah, who cares? Because you're looking through a window. We can look at a mirror, same glass, glass is important, changes lens, but also it can be a mirror, it can be a window, and you can say to yourself, what am I going to do about this?
I come from rural KZN, R56, Mzimkhulu. And I've been in the entrepreneurial space, so now I'm coexisting between corporate and entrepreneurial space. I've met really brilliant young minds in that space, and people who are trying to sort of use their degrees, what they have, resources, whatever's around them, to sort of make it up in the industry and whatever sector they've chosen. But my question is, with modeling, how do we change the entrepreneurship model? Right now, as much as everyone says it is a great tool to mitigate the unemployment rate and everyone to get everyone employed, the biggest question is, I know people in Mzimkhulu, small town, who are in the agricultural space, but the market for them to take their produce to a Spar, a Boxer, a ShopRite is already saturated. They are already the stringent laws of, health and safety. Does this meet that? Does this meet that? So as much as you see the potential, they have a great harvest. They have to sell it at a lower rate to the communities. Okay, at least that's the upside. We are also balancing the scales in terms of food security with the people that are around us.
What's your question, Lindy?
My question is the model that we currently have. In your view, how do we change it so that they can go into institution banks, get the loans, scale, get into not just the local ShopRite, but be within the ShopRite enterprise so that they can now be able to scale. So it's no longer a food on the table.
It's a great question, right? It's a great question. You know what? It's a great question. Yeah. Because that's a lot of people, that's their reality. Right? Yes. But if you're going to wait for government to change things, or for SPAR to do different things, or for the landscape to change, or for people to say, okay, even though you produce like 2 tons extra, we're going to pay you anyway extra. It's like standing outside anyway with the car train. Yeah? The car train's not going to come past there. Right? So what you have to go back is basics. What does the lens look like? What's the opportunity? What's the readiness level of it, etc.? Is the crop that's still farming useful? Yeah. I went to Guyana and the lady, the northern Limpopo, they were saying that they've been farming spinach and tomatoes there forever. But the time has changed. When the climate changes, how do you adapt? Yeah. When the market changes, because you've got competitors, how do you adapt? So the thing we're talking about is exactly that. That's how you crack that code. You can't wait for people to arrive on your doorstep with, it's like there's a massive earthquake and you come there with a feather duster and a little scoop. Right? The earthquake's too big for it to deal. You have to change, adapt, and thing, etc. So you become more curious. Do you know right now, for example, here's a stat, right? Goats. How much goats we import in this country? Now we've got all this land, all goats have to do is mate, and they have 2 calves a year. We can't solve a goat problem. We can't fix the amount of goats in this country. We import 500 million rand worth of goats from Namibia and Botswana every year. Do we know that? Do your farmer know that?
There are people who do.
But your farmer you're talking about, does he know that? Does she know that?
Yes.
And are they going to move to other crops? Are they finding a way to differentiate themselves from competitors?
Yes.
You see, all the answers to all the questions over here, you go from the flow. If I change my lens, am I asking the right questions? Am I curious? Is there opportunity? What do I do better? What do I do differently? You know what a moat is? In the old days, you had a castle. And to get to the castle, to take the king and the queen out, you had to come through this moat. Yeah. And the moat was this water. They put crocodiles in, they put whatever they could find and put in there, etc. So it's difficult to get to a castle because there's a moat. If you start a business with no moat, it doesn't walk over you every day. I'm a farmer, I farm spinach. I got 2 tons of spinach, I go to everybody, but everybody else got 7 tons of spinach, and whatever I can take food, I just take food. You're farming the wrong crop, you've got no moat. You build a moat around your business, so it's difficult to get past. It must be so difficult to replicate what you do. What is unique? What is different? What is compelling by what you do? If there's nothing in there and you're basically taking the same recipe, there's no difference. You're going to come across a business and you need a massive amount of curiosity to be the most important in the beginning. Then you become less curious. But then you make the call to invest, then it becomes risk appetite. So they fluctuate. They're not like, it's not like this one's more important than that one. At that point in time, you'll figure out what's the most important at that point in time. The second piece of how you work through it is that you can partner. If I have a lot of curiosity and little risk appetite, I might partner with somebody with more risk appetite. Find a good partner, you can find a way to make it work. Thirdly, also, you can find a way to upskill yourself. You know, curiosity is like, I want to become a student forever of my business. Let me Google, me research, kind of thing, etc. You can find ways to break those spaces. So I don't think firstly there's one that's more important. I think they'll vacillate as your business circumstances emerge. And secondly, you can teach yourself to be more curious. You can teach yourself to take on more risk. When last you done something for the first time? And taking a risk. Put that there kind of thing. The mission, the sense of mission and purpose, that's important as well. So you can partner, you can find ways, but you'll always find the fact that sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's energy. Sometimes you go through a spell where your body's run down and you seek whatever the case, and you should find more energy to get this piece of work done. So the rest of it. Yeah.
Hi, thanks Nico. I'm Tracy Bashala. So I just wanted to find out, how did you manage to blend corporate as well as entrepreneurship, right? And did you ever find yourself in a point in time where you felt like there was more of a pull in one direction? And when were you comfortable with the one kind of being prioritized?
Great question. So if you play this coexisting game, you're going to come across it a lot, right? First of all, you work for an employer. They pay your salaries, you can service your debt and pay for your family's education and food and clothing kind of thing, etc. So you find a way to actually get the balance right. So you take on partners. So none of my business I own 100%, besides the property with my wife. Ivan runs the factory, she runs 49%, I own 51%. The lady called Sam, she runs the gifting and branding company in Cape Town, she's got 49%, I got 51%. You want to have the control, right? You make the call. But you want that to be their only asset, you want that to be their main sweat. So that's the important part in terms of saying you can't do your own, because you must run a business, you can't be 100% working in one space and 100% working in another space. The second thing, you must look at your time at 86,400 seconds. So on a Monday, between 7 to 9, I work with the farm agriculture guys, we farm them. I have a team with the project team, 2 hours on a Monday. On a Tuesday, from 7 to 9, I'll work with the factory guy. Once a week I stay in Joburg, I'll actually live in Cape Town. This is the week I stay in Joburg. Tomorrow I'll sit with the factory guy, working through production, numbers, all that stuff. So you find ways to say, I need to make sure that I treat my employer, give him my full 100%, which I do. But we all got time in different spaces. When somebody says to you, I didn't have time to do it, they actually say I didn't prioritize it. So I do just pull the things together. And then sometimes, when everyone's sleeping, and at 1 o'clock in the morning you're still looking at numbers, that's the energy, that's the sweat, that's what you have to put in over here. So you can't, life is like that, what you put in, you're going to get out. What you reap, you sow. So it's a difficult balance, and you have to find the right partners, you have to find the right time, you have to make the balance right, but don't ever get to a point where you're not giving full 100% to what you're supposed to be doing. Yes.
Do you, or personally, when you think of a business idea, what do you practically do? So I can think of this great idea, and I can Google, but what do you do? Do you literally think of, oh, I know this person, let me quickly speak to him, or yeah, how do you implement this idea?
You see, resourcefulness is a key attribute as well, right? Because I was thinking to myself, okay, I got the idea, the concept, but I know it'll work. But who knows more about AI than me? There's a guy called Adam Pantano, who's the head of coding over there, let me phone him. So your network gives you the ability to actually just bounce things with people, right? That's why I say, work in a relationship all the time. Don't build a relationship when you need a favor. Work in it way before the time of it. So you take the concept in the middle, and you do like a scattergram in terms of like a puzzle, in terms of saying, I'm looking, so let's say your idea is to say, I want to create an app that does, that makes it easy for parents to understand where kids are, look at manage their health, manage security, I want access to all that stuff, and you want to do that. And you want to put in the middle. Who do I know, firstly, right? Who's doing it currently? What other people are doing things that's similar that I can learn from? You know, the lines that they use in Spa, the bollard system over here in terms of queuing, didn't come from retail. It came from airports. You take from industry. You say, this industry does this well, I don't take that piece of beer. So you become resourceful, you become resilient, and you find ways to get those places. You get good thinkers. I talk to, you know, the Bono caps. Every de Bono has thought in terms of change your cap, like changing your lens. I put my green cap on, ideation. Don't shoot the idea down, think of all the possibilities. Red cap, what can go wrong? Orange cap, what can be done differently? So you actually program yourself to do it yourself. And then secondly, you talk to people you know. You research, you Google. You go look at Claude's capability right now. You can say what country, what city, what they do, and they give you a whole stack of information. It's never ever been easy to get information right now. The area we're in terms of ad perspective, etc. In all those places. So let's close out by giving you this gift. Now the class must vote because there's a couple of great questions. I love your question in terms of, I love your questions, one in terms of talent, your question in terms of what we do differently.
Thank you, Nico.